Hey everybody, welcome back to Byte Club, the monthly indie game club podcast. I am your host, Nevin.
And me. I'm your other host, Jesse. That's me.
That's that one.
That's me.
This month we are talking about Campo Santo's Firewatch. As a reminder, we will be discussing spoiler stuff later on in the podcast. This first half is going to be totally spoiler free, and we're going to let you know when we're going into spoilerinos. That's all I got. So let's get the frick started.
The whole thing. Let's get in there.
That's the whole thing. Let's do it.
Let's dang and do it.
So, Firewatch is a first-person hike-em-up where you play as a sad dude who gets a summer job as a member of the watch crew for one of Wyoming's state parks. It's got a surprising amount of mystery and intrigue that you dig your way through as you play first fiddle to the developing relationship between two strangers, Henry and Delilah, over the course of their summer as fire watchers.
Don't lie. Tell everyone that you wrote down Firewatch and Watchers.
I wrote down Firewatch and Watchers because I wasn't sure if I wanted to do the bit or not, but here I am.
It's a good bit. I'm a fan.
It's an okay bit. Okay. So you have played this game a few times.
I've played this game like 8 times.
Did you replay it for this year podcast arena?
Yeah, I played it once regularly and then again with the developer commentary. So twice for this.
Twice.
I feel I might be a Firewatch aficionado at this point.
I guess I would just be a Firewatch enthusiast then, because I only played it twice. Once normal, once with developers commentary, and there's some real cool shit in that dev commentary.
Yeah, there's some meaty stuff in there.
Meaty stuff. More back-end game dev stuff than I thought there would be. I thought it would be a lot of like stuff about the writing, but it was
a lot of interesting
about,
technical
stuff that they
include.
It was really cool. Really cool.
Yeah. I like how they like added scripted elements to it as well, where like when you're playing through the developer commentary, there's actually like they give you little props to interact with and stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah, there's some. Yeah, there's one in particular that freaked me out. Whew. We'll talk about that in the spoiler area because I guess that's kind of spoilers.
It's a little bit, some of the parts.
A little bit. So I also didn't play this when it came out.
Yes.
I actually knew next to nothing about this game going into it this month.
Oh, wow.
I knew that it was about 2 people and some fire watching and that there was a turtle in it. I didn't actually get the turtle. I couldn't find the turtle on my first playthrough.
Oh.
So when I was playing through with Jam, she found the turtle and we were like, oh shit, dude, a turtle. Neat.
Nice. Did you find the raccoon?
Yeah, I found two raccoons.
Nice. Did you get bit by the raccoon?
You're talking about the one that jumps out of the thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Hank's got rabies now.
Oh yeah, nice. It's Henry, actually.
Sure thing. Hank rhymes with thanks, so
good.
There we go. Nice. Did it. Give me a thumbs up for that in-joke, Fire Watchers.
Right now, dude. You can't see it, but it's happening. You're getting a thumb.
I don't like it when you tell me I'm getting a thumb. Not good. So yeah, I mean, I guess general impressions of this game, the writing is super fucking good. I knew it would have to be good for it to get as much praise as it was getting, but I think the narrative aspect of this game is way, way stronger than the actual technical side of it. Like, the gameplay is fine, the controls are fine. I didn't have any issues with it, but when I was playing through with Jam, she pointed out a lot of things that I hadn't thought about. Like, just some of the UI, UX elements were a little weird. We ended up, I had no glitches or problems on my playthrough, but when she and I played, we had, 2 crashes. I noticed a whole bunch of stuff that wasn't sitting in the world geometry quite right. It was interesting, and I wonder if that might be related to being in commentary mode or something. I don't know. It was
I
weird.
don't think so. So I've played the game like 7 times regularly, and I never really had much of an issue with the with any sort of technical things. I did have a couple instances where things weren't landing properly. Like there's a scene where a radio hits the ground. It doesn't exactly hit the ground right. The shadows are like floating weirdly. But that's really it. Like clipping and stuff. But like serious technical stuff. I never had the game crash, not once. Even when I played like at launch.
We had stuff not clipping right. There were a couple of cache boxes that weren't actually sitting on the ground. There's an angle you can view the supply cache in that lets you see right through the bottom of it, which that makes sense. Like, that's just a modeling thing to save space. I get that.
Yeah.
Grass not actually touching the ground. There was a whole dialogue section where the radio just didn't load in at all. So I was just holding, I just had an empty hand that was moving back and forth. I think I gotta be fair and say that, like, none of that was detrimental to the overall experience of the game. Like, I wasn't going into this expecting some mechanically rich, super challenging game. I was expecting like a good story.
Yeah.
And I got that. I got that in spades. I also gotta admit, I thought this game would fuck me up a little bit more. There were definitely
so you
some
left
moments.
it not a little fricked in the head, a little bunked up.
I mean, like, everything that happened by the end of the game, everything that happened made sense.
Mm-hmm.
There weren't any like, oh, what the fuck moments by the end of the game. There were definitely those like towards the beginning and middle where you're like, what do you mean someone's at something? Oh, and the intro to the game is like phenomenal, and there's all sorts of emotional highs and lows throughout the whole thing. But when it ended, like, I expected the ending itself to be punchier, but really it was just like, no, this makes sense. And I think that's because by then you get to know these characters. I mean, you develop one of them entirely, pretty much. And so the decision that they make is kind of like yours, to an extent.
Yeah.
I didn't cry. I thought I'd cry. I didn't cry, so maybe that's character development for me. I don't know.
It sounds like it might be. You cry at everything. So yeah, that is interesting that you didn't cry at this. Yeah, I think the ending it was a very contentious thing when the game came out. There were a lot of people very upset, very vocally upset about the ending, and we'll get to that more specifically later. But I think it's just like that game in particular, for some reason, more than like most of the other very walkie sim, very, not explaining what's going on in the ending kind of games like Virginia and stuff. And I think it has something to do, like, Firewatch was the first game in that sort of bunch to not really land really well. A lot of people were very vocal about the lack of an interesting ending, or the lack of an ending that they found to be fulfilling. And that probably has to do a lot more with just how well marketed the game was. I mean, off the back of having Sean Vanneman and Rodkin and Chris Remo and Ollie Moss, a lot of people from Telltale as well who had left to work on this. So you got a lot of that star power that got it out there a lot more easily. And then I think it was on the show floor for Microsoft. It was one of their indie games they were showing off at E3 2015, I believe. And that was a big push as well. So a lot of people knew about it. And the way they marketed it was the part of it that's interesting. And then everyone kind of, again, I don't want to get too far into it, but everyone kind of wasn't getting that in the end. And that's interesting, how much marketing played into that.
Yeah, the main marketing stuff was like focused around the mystery aspect of it, right?
Yeah, it was very like, the first trailer I think they showed at the Microsoft thing was you hiking up to the top of a mountain, and then Delilah telling you there's someone in your tower, and that you need to get back there. Or she's like commenting on. Yeah,
they talk about that. They talk about that whole thing in the dev commentary, actually.
Yeah, they mentioned that trailer and how that trailer was like too. It was a scene that doesn't actually happen at that moment in the game, but just visually it made the most sense to have it there, just to show off like what you were doing in the adventure elements of the game.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting that like that it was just such a contentious part of the game that so many people had so many different opinions on the ending and were expecting something from it, but ultimately the game didn't offer that ending, or didn't even offer something that people seem to be more accepting of. Like, I feel like Gone Home hit a little harder for a lot of people. And I don't know if that has anything to do with the tones of the ending of Gone Home.
I still have not actually played Gone Home, but from what I know of it, I think that game touches on something that's maybe a bit easier to identify with for a lot of people. Like, Firewatch was strictly, like, primarily about relationships and marriage and dealing with those kinds of problems and dealing with fault and whether or not it's rightly placed. And I thought that was a super, super powerful theme that they nailed well. But also, like you're saying, like the way that it's marketed and, you know, target demographics and all that stuff, it probably just didn't stick.
Yeah. I mean, that definitely is a big part of it. Like, it's also not just how it was marketed, I think, in a lot of aspects. It's also how they present the game, right? When you're playing it. Like, when you have conversations with Delilah, there's a lot of opportunities to sort of self-insert. You define Henry at the start of the game with that sort of Twine introduction, which is really cool. It's a really great way of telling that story.
It's actually made in Twine originally, like when he was pitching it.
Yeah, prototyping the game,
cool.
They did it in Twine, which is great. Yeah,
Twine kicks ass.
It's a good reminder that you can always get a start in the industry doing something simple like that. But yeah, like that whole setup for the start of the game really sold a lot of people, I think, on the idea that Henry is so much a character on his own, but still a reflection of your own choices within that framework. Like, they present you with the story of Henry and what he went through and the moments in his life that they felt were the most important for you to make decisions for. And you kind of defined your Henry. Like, is he a jerk to his wife? Is he someone who's willing to compromise? You know, all that sort of stuff. And then you come into the game, and with that in mind, you are defining Henry, and therefore you're defining sort of your experience there, like his experience and the experience that you have from that point onward. When you talk to Delilah, like, how do you interact with her? And you kind of know who your Henry is going into things, and like, do you want to be that person? Do you not want to be that person? And that, I think, can tell a lot of people what's going on. And by the end of the game, depending on what kind of Henry you had and who you were when you played the game, that can say a lot about the ending and how you feel about it, I think. And it's something that I want to touch on later, because it's a really interesting aspect. It's something that I did a little weird research on. I was just curious what other people did for the endings. I'm excited to talk about that for sure.
Yeah, I didn't get to play through as a massive dickhead, so I'm excited to hear from you, because I know you did, and I'm excited to hear about that.
Yeah.
Man, it's just a really solid adventure. I love this map that you can just wander around. And I love how it's almost a Metroidvania, kind of. Like, they're very distinct. You can, from the very start, you can wander to certain, like, funneled endpoints that you can't get past until you get an item.
Yeah.
And it's, part of me almost wishes they had used that more, because it's really cool. I would love a hiking Metroidvania. That'd be great. Somebody make that. And that was really interesting to me. And also, they did a fantastic job of, like, directing the player to certain paths, because when I first played through, I didn't really come to any of those funnels, and none of them, like, I think I found one, and it made sense, and it was really cool when I could get past it, because it was like, oh, I know exactly where I need to use this thing. And that was just interesting. It's not at all like the primary focus of the game, but I think it's a really interesting approach to this kind of game.
Yeah. It adds that layer of, like, gameplay, like, not to be rude or anything, but you play games like Dear Esther. We've talked about games like this in the past, especially when I think we did our
there's a
episode.
reason the genre is called, like, a walking sim.
Yeah, as much as it sort of started as a derogatory name, it is still fairly accurate.
What you do.
A lot of what you're doing is
you
walking. Like, there's not really a whole lot of other actions that you have in the game, and I think that, like, Firewatch especially avoids the problem that I think a lot of them fall into, and I think it's why it became such an approachable game for a lot of people, because there's elements to it that exist past the idea of just walking and listening to dialogue and picking stuff up. There's also that walkie-talkie conversation stuff that you have back and forth.
There's the interactions add so much to the adventure, because pretty much anything you can look at, you can talk to Delilah about.
Yeah.
And there are even, well, that's kind of spoilery, so I'll wait on that. But, like, it's not just a la Dear Esther walking around a pretty place and listening to some sad ass soliloquies. You are in this world and you are exploring it and you are feeling and seeing things in ways that are different from other players, and maybe even in orders that are slightly different from other players. And I think that does lend a lot to the strength of this game. In addition to there's like little interactables that you get, like you get the camera, which I love the camera so much.
Yeah, such a cool idea. A great addition to
very good
that sort of game, especially when you've got the art direction, of Ollie Moss and Jane Eng doing the 3D work.
Yes.
You've just got these gorgeous landscapes, these beautiful gradients and the colors, and it's just like, it's such a good looking game. It's such a great just representation of nature. It is. It's just a big photo op, and it's really cool. Like, the technical aspect of the lighting and the way that they did daytime and the way they did like the lighting in a cave and stuff. Like, it's just, there's so much to making something that looks that nice. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't appreciate enough, is technical art. And like the work that goes into making a video game look pretty, because it's really easy to say like, oh, draw something that looks nice. And yeah, obviously, draw a good thing, put it on the screen. But when you've got 3D stuff and you need to be able to let the player like move around in it, you have to handle day-night cycles and all that sort of stuff. That stuff gets really, really complicated. And I think Firewatch is like a really good example of why it's important to appreciate that sort of stuff, but also like why we need to just like care about that more, I guess. Like, people in general, people that play games, especially though, like, we need to just appreciate the fact that art is not entirely a creative thing. There's also a lot of technical backing to it. So when you see something pretty, know that it's not just an artist, it's a technical programmer. It's, lots of people working on effects stuff. There's a lot that goes behind that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. I think the visual team, the visual team was more than like 3 or 4 people for this game. And a lot of people think like, oh, you just have an artist on the game and that's it. But no, you have people who do this and this and this and this. This person's especially good at this. And then you've got all sorts of other technical things. Like, I'm really impressed with how they handled loading, which is basically just like streaming.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's a simple thing, but they do it in a way that comes across really, really well, and you don't see a whole lot of pop-in unless you're trying to make it happen.
Yeah, the developer commentary, they mention how there's like so much that goes into that, and I think you hear a lot of that in the developer commentary. A lot of like smaller anecdotes that are really interesting, and I think like if someone has played the game and hasn't checked that out, it's worth playing through for another 3 or 4 hours just to hear smaller stories, interesting things about like the sounds for ducks. Like, there's whole stories about how they got the sounds for the ducks in the game, or how they developed the soundscape with like a real sound Foley studio. Like, it's not just some guy in his backyard recording some sounds of birds chirping in the woods. Like, this is a real deal thing. It's really interesting.
And it's not even just like one layer of audio. They piece things together like a puzzle so that they can change what's loud, what's quiet, what's at the front, what's at the back, how things are located around you. Like, when you're walking through a path, the birds don't sound like they're everywhere around you. They sound like they're up in that tree.
Yeah, I think stuff really like that is always super fascinating. Yeah, technical aspects of sound. Like I said, like, as much as this game is a beautiful tapestry of sound and music and visuals, art, color, just everything going on, composition, like all of that stuff is so visually impressive, and it's the easiest thing to point to. There's so much that goes behind making sure that it works and making it possible to run at a decent frame rate on crappy laptops. Like, it's just, there's so much to it. And I think it's, for such a small team to have such a big, impressive thing like this, it's so cool. Something that everyone can point to and say like, this is one of the hallmarks of great art in games in general, not just in indie games. So that's always really nice to see and see people appreciating. And I hope that they remember that there's, people behind it that aren't just visually creative. They're also technically creative and technically skilled.
And there's people behind it that aren't just the big names. We've talked about stuff like that before too.
Yeah, definitely.
Put Firewatch in a museum.
Real shit. Real shit.
I'm not even joking. I think it'd be so good in like the Video Game History Museum or in the Maid or something. You know, it'd be really cool.
Yeah, if they made like a VR movie, a VR mode for this game, and plopped it in a history museum or an art museum, yeah, man, people would be all over that for sure.
That'd be super fucking rad. You can let people take their own pictures in it and like get them at the gift shop.
Oh, and then print them out at the yeah. Someone do that. Someone talk to Panic Inc.
And everything.
Get it done.
Fuck yeah, do it.
Hell
Panic
yeah. Or talk to whoever now. Valve, I guess.
I don't know. Just drop the play date. Do this.
I think that's another thing I'm curious on, or at least interested in discussing. The game was so successful, and I think you can feel a lot of it in its design and in the dev commentary. The way they present it, it's very similar in a lot of ways to a lot of older. Older is all of their games now, I guess. Valve games. Their developer commentary has, you stop and you listen to a conversation, usually from one person, but sometimes from two or three. And they also include technical aspects of it as well, where there's, you can interact with things and you can feel how they did things. They show you how the camera moves. They show you different effects and stuff like that within the game, which is really cool. I love that sort of stuff from the developer commentary. And that's included in Firewatch. And, there's a certain sense of classic sort of Half-Life-y world interactions in Firewatch, or at least I feel that way. If Half-Life didn't have a gun, I feel like this is really similar to what you would be doing, talking to Alex and stuff like that, and all that sort of stuff. But obviously,
more stealthy stuff to it if you didn't have a gun in Half-Life.
Oh, for sure, yeah. But mainly my point is that like I get that sort of feeling, or I got that sort of feeling from basically the start of when I played the game. Yeah, a very Valve-y feeling to it. And now that the studio is owned by Valve, I believe is the situation, or they work with Valve, their next game...
So we're never going to see another game from them again.
Yeah. And that's I think, something that's really interesting in the indie space is like the goal, ultimately, I think for most indies, would be to be self-perpetual, to just be able to make games and not have to worry about, money or anything like that, and just be good to go. And some are successful enough to get to do that, but ultimately it's either that, which is a pie in the sky, it's a fun dream to have, or it's to get bought out by a company. But I feel like the worst one to get bought out by is Valve, because you're never going to finish anything.
You're never going to be allowed.
I'm really excited for Firewatch Auto Chess in a week.
That'll be Firewatch devs are sitting there working on the Steam UI update.
Oh, it's going to be great. I love making talented people do nothing. It's so good. As long as they get paid, I guess, whatever.
Yeah, on the one hand, as long as they get paid. On the other hand, let them do what they want, you fucks.
Please, for the love of goodness. I don't want to have to read, former Telltale and Valve employees make another narrative game that's actually good this time.
Let the Firewatch devs take over Dota and make it a walking sim.
There you go. I'd play that.
There we go.
I'd play it.
3D
honestly, isometric. Seriously, I'd play the hell out of it.
I'd probably play the hell out of that too. Yeah, give me some juicy Dota lore.
Oh, yeah.
Does Dota even have lore? I
don't know. Probably. It's a video game on the internet. It's got some lore. If it doesn't have inbuilt lore,
it's on the fan wiki. It's all headcanons.
Exactly. Oh, yeah.
Man, Firewatch is a good-ass game.
Yeah, it's a great game. I think that, like, the part of it that I always find myself coming back to and really appreciating is the fact that... I don't want to spoil anything. It's the fact that mostly the game presents itself... differently to the person playing it and how they feel at the time. It's really a game that like, so when I was growing up, I had this teacher who told me to watch the movie Almost Famous, but not right away. I was like in grade 6 or 7 when he told me this. He told me to watch it when I was older, when I had been through some stuff. And I think Firewatch is kind of that game for me. If I were to recommend to people, like if I were to talk to someone who was like 15 or 16 and be like, hey, you should play this game when you're like 21 or really sad, whichever one's happens first. Hopefully the former. But like, it's a game that your situation, who you are and what you've done and your life experiences can say a lot about how you play it, about the story you get from it, but also from what you appreciate from it, what you walk away from it with.
How you reflect on the experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the way that you look at the ending. A lot of people that I saw who were upset about it, who were upset with the ending, were these like very, well-off-ish, like early 20s, mid-20s white guys. And like, that's fine. Like that doesn't matter. But the point is just that like they were people who really had been through just enough to be upset about that. And I'm wondering what the circumstances would be if they played it today or if they played it a couple years from now. And there's, again, don't want to spoil anything, but there's a point that I want to bring up that's really funny and weird and speaks to the change that has happened within the gaming space on YouTube and just in general 3 years after the game came out. So very excited to get to that bit. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about in Firewatch? That's not
that I can't also talk about it in spoilers. Like I'm happy with waiting to talk about it in spoilers so that the gloves are off.
Oh yeah, I'm excited to say some things and not have to worry about making sure people. Take the what off? The shackles off.
Yeah, the shackles of not being able to talk about spoilers.
Brother, gamers rise up! Hell yes, no more shackles. There are no strings on me, brother. Make it happen.
Holy shit! I hate this. Anyways, we got a few non-spoiler questions that we should talk about before we get on getting on. First one comes from Nerf Dipshit on Twitter.
Hell yeah. Shout outs, Nerf guy.
Shout the fuck outs. If you could have a hike 'em up like Firewatch set anywhere in the world, where would that be?
Oh my god, anywhere in Canada. Like, for the love of goodness, can I get some games made about this country? I'm so tired of American wilderness. I know that Canada is right there and it's not a big deal, but like, come on, please. Like, we have more mountains and significantly more trees. Like, please. They're not on fire, like guys. Please.
Wouldn't it just be Firewatch but cold?
No, the long winter is totally different, dude. Get out of here.
Isn't that just Ice Road Truckers?
Come on, I'll play that. Are you telling me you wouldn't play Ice Road Truckers without the trucks? Come on.
I think that is a video game. It's called The Long Dark.
Oh, you're right. I said that too.
You did say that too. No, Canada would be cool. I don't know anything about Canada except that Jesse lives there. And
exactly. Let me tell you, we live in the wilderness.
Good healthcare, which is nice.
Dude, igloos, healthcare, and the Canucks, and that's kind of it. Oh, and the Raptors now.
Poutine.
Yeah, ooh, fries and cheese.
Let me play Firewatch, but I get to go and buy some poutine. Yeah.
Every fifth day, you get to go into a city and purchase one different Canadian delicacy. So it's either poutine or like fried bread.
That's the only difference.
It's the exact same game. Nothing's changed, but you get to get a little bowl of poutine every other day.
I actually have I used to hike and go camping and like rock climbing and stuff a lot with my dad and my uncle. And this game brought back a lot of those memories. And I think it would be cool to have one set in the Wichita Wildlife Reserve in Oklahoma, getting to see and hike around a place that I don't really get to go much anymore. Like I haven't been there in maybe 10 or 11 years, but I still like so vividly remember so many of these specific places. It would be great to get to go around there and just explore some stuff.
Wow, dude, America again. Jeez, way to have a nice little story there to tack onto it, just so you could say I want more games set in America, dude. Like,
all right, you know what? Let's
get over yourself.
Non-North American.
I'm just playing. That's a really, really good reason to want it there. That is really sweet.
It is true, but we did both pick somewhere in North America.
That is true. Boring. If you were to have somewhere that's not North America, what would you want it to be?
I want to say the Arctic, but that game exists and is a game I like. It's also not really a hike 'em up, it's more of a survival game. Man, does England have wilderness?
They've got a couple trees from what I've heard. Northern Scotland, they've got some stuff going on.
They got grass.
They got grass for sure. Sheep, I think.
Ireland would be cool. Ireland would be really cool. There's some gorgeous places over there from the pictures my parents showed me from their trips.
Just stay away from the border, and you're good.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
Love Brexit. Yeah, no, that's a good one. I would probably love Africa. I think that would be really cool.
Oh, that'd be really cool. Or like any kind of, yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good as fuck.
And by Africa, I don't mean the entire continent. You know what I mean when I say Africa. Like, like sub-Saharan Africa. Like, let me take some pictures of some giraffes, man. That's all I'm saying.
Man, a rainforest would be cool as fuck, like the Amazon. That'd be fucking sick.
That'd be great. That would be horrifying because you probably absolutely get a disease like 5 seconds in.
Yeah. I think that game exists too, actually. A couple.
Yeah, I love Far Cry 2. Great game.
Oh shit!
Which is funny because big inspiration.
They mentioned that, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty obvious too, right? The physical map and the lots of radio conversations.
The map is the only thing that I could really draw a direct connection to. The radio conversation is a radio conversation.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the overlap of the map and the radio conversations and the way you kind of find things. And there's a tracker that you have in Far Cry 2 that lets you hunt down diamonds.
That whole device was from Far Cry. Yeah. All right. Cool. Neat. Next up, we've got 2 questions from Puking Goombas. What did you name the turtle?
What's the name of the dog? Mayhem Jr. That's what I named it.
Yeah, not Mayhem, but the other dog name. I can't remember it. Boomer?
Right, yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
Brittany? Brittany? Boomhauer?
I don't know, some other dog name. Whatever dog name Jr.
Dog Jr., yeah.
Yeah.
Love that fucking turtle.
Yeah.
Very good.
Good
and
boy.
walking... Did you have something? What?
Oh, no, I was just saying, good boy. Great turtle.
Great turtle. Wish I could have taught him to roll over. What the other question from Pukin Goombas? Walking through the state park sparked some memories of me hiking through some great trails. How about y'all? And I think I kind of answered that already. But you got any?
Hiking. What is that? I've never been outside before in my life.
I ain't never been outside. What's the exterior doors? I never heard about that before.
Don't know nothing about it. Kind of funny, I guess. I had this long stint where I just was very much not happy. And going out for a walk was like a big deal for me, which is
like
kind of sad to look back on.
Like being able to get yourself together and going out and doing it.
Yeah, just going for a walk and just living my dang old life.
Yeah.
And playing this game and the themes that it has about escapism and the choice you have of leaving and going somewhere else to avoid your problems really made me reflect on that a lot. When I played it the first time, I think playing Firewatch was the thing that actually inspired me to try and go out and do that. Just because that's something that I needed to do, and doing that really did help me. Just going outside and just nodding at people as they walk past, saying hi and stuff after my very not good time. It was nice. It was liberating almost. So yeah, I mean, I definitely ruminated on that sort of thing. Not as interesting of a hike, less pretty stuff and a lot more sad reflection. But similar in a lot of ways, I guess. Walking through the woods.
Firewatch is entirely sad reflection.
That is true. Good point.
But yeah, I just remembered going out and camping and hiking and rock climbing with my dad and my uncle. That was something that we would do multiple times a year from the ages of 8 to 16. I did a lot. And
nice.
I really miss it. And it's something that I would love to do again. And this game kind of brought those memories back in force. Especially a couple really, really awesome, really vivid ones. But yeah, that's it for me. Last up, Perry actually asked if we had seen Steve-O Hobo's video on Firewatch, and I hadn't, so I watched it, and I gotta say that video is good as fuck. I'm gonna put a link to it in the episode notes description thing. Shit's really good.
Yeah, please watch that Steve-O Hobo video.
That's a fantastic fucking video.
I don't think so. Steve-O Hobo is one of my best friends, no question. Funny that it was brought up because I was going to include it anyways in Extra Bytes, but the video that he made for that is so touching in that Steve touches on the elements of Firewatch that I did a lot of research sort of on just opinion videos on the game, on articles on the game, and it's an element that not a lot of people even remotely touch on, and it's pretty much the entire video from Steve about how we form relationships in the online age and how communication is defined so much by just people being able to disconnect in a second. At any moment, I could stop talking to so many people that I know that I feel like I know so well, but just they could not log on and that would be it. And he talks about that a lot in that video. And if that's something that you feel you can relate to, even if you are someone listening to this that hasn't played Firewatch or is remotely interested in it, I think it's worth watching that video just because Steve unfortunately no longer makes things, but it is without a doubt one of the best videos I saw on this game, and it stands to be one of the best ones from anyone that I know that makes them personally. So
That's
definitely
very good.
check
That's
it out.
extremely high praise.
It's just facts. I'm just spitting them truths.
Spit them truths, man. That just got me to realize that a couple weeks ago I was cleaning out my Steam's friends list, and like I saw names of people that I was.
A lot of people logged off, huh? Last seen 6 years ago.
Ooh, damn, it sucks. Anyways, we're gonna take a little break. Go and we'll be back in the spoilers area. But yeah, we're gonna take a little break and we'll be right back. Hey, Jesse. This is Nevin coming over the radio to report some vandalism.
What happened to your voice, Nevin?
Oh, don't worry about it.
Oh, we're in the 1930s, yeah.
We're in the 1930s now. I'm just here to report some vandalism in our gorgeous state park. We've got some names written here on a signpost. We've got David Snotter, Mark B. Redding, Puking Goombas, Steve Z, and Storm Hughes.
Great names.
They got fantastic names, which is why we're not going to call the cops.
But they shouldn't have put them up there.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have graffitied the names, honestly.
Shouldn't have
That's
graffitied
really
the names.
disrespectful.
It's super bad, but hey, thanks for doing it. Really appreciate ya. That was the bit. Did you like it?
That was a... Let's go to the spoiler section.
leave all that in. Okay, here we are in Spoiler Town, Wyoming.
No graffiti here.
No graffiti here now. We got rid of it.
Not anymore. We power washed it off. We're good.
We are good. Holy fuck, man! This fucking
it had
game
an ending, huh? Yeah, so we talked about it at the start. We talked about how there were a lot of opinions about the ending, and it was kind of the big hot topic regarding the game forever after it came out. So you just played it recently for the first time, all the way through. I'm very curious. Did you like the ending of Firewatch?
Yes, I did. I thought it was great.
Good.
It's
Good
just
answer.
I mean, just think about it. There's already been so much that's happened, and it's been like, I guess I didn't do any reading on it, so my guess is that the complaint that people would have had is that nothing was concrete. Like, we don't know if Tom Henry Hanks goes and sees Julia, his wife. We don't know if he gets to meet Delilah.
Well, we know if he goes and sees Delilah, or we know if he goes and sees his wife, probably. I mean, it's just a guess. But yeah, that's sort of the thing that people aren't really upset about. It's more the Delilah part.
People wanted to see Delilah, I guess.
Yeah, desperately.
Like
desperately
I guess that
wanted
been
to see
cool,
Delilah.
I don't know, man. I don't care. It's fine.
I think the thing is, this is what I was saying about the circumstances of your life really defining how you view Firewatch and how you view the game itself. Because obviously, you now are married.
Yes,
and I'm sure previously
I wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, you also wouldn't have done these stupid things. But when I was, however old when this came out, 2016?
I don't know. I didn't look it up. I don't do research.
Nice. I'm pretty sure it was 2016. When it came out then, I made the decisions that led me to, that led Henry to have a relatively intimate relationship with Delilah, but that also seemed to be the direction that the game was kind of leading me on, or at least I felt that was anyways. But the reason I bring up you being married is because I'm curious, when those opportunities came up, what did you do while you were playing as Henry in Firewatch? Did you reject those advances by Delilah, or did you lean into them? What did you do?
I actually only ever got one advance from Delilah, and it's the one when you're looking at the flapjack fire, or that first.
Well, there's that, but there's
fire.
Also flirting kind of stuff, and she asks about parts of your life and stuff. Maybe after that, there's parts of that as well.
Maybe this speaks a bit to me, but I didn't feel like there was any flirting. I felt like she was just being nice. So maybe I'm clueless. But okay, no. I know it. Okay. All right, I had to think about it a little bit. No, I didn't flirt with her. I was just friendly. She's the only voice you ever hear in the games. You gotta make friends with her. I don't want her to hate me, or I don't want her to hate Henry. I want them to have like a good, strong friendship. And that's what I went for. Also, Henry's fucking married.
Harry, my favorite character from Firewatch.
I said Henry.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna get his name wrong for the rest of the podcast.
That's fine. Go ahead. Yeah. So I think that like when a lot of people played it for the first time, or at least when I played it the first time, it was very much something that I like didn't take all that seriously. In regards to that element of Henry's life, his having a wife and the fact that like she, you know, has dementia and they kind of have to deal with that, and the choices you make while you're doing the Twine intro can define a lot of how I think you look at the relationship later on throughout the game, and how willing you are to make decisions that maybe aren't the most moral or the most ethical, just because, you know, you don't have any personal attachment to Julia outside of the intro, and depending on the choices you made in that, you could have like zero connection to Julia, which is really screwed up. But
for sure,
you know, that is, I think that says a lot about the ending and how people perceived it, and the fact that you didn't hate it means that I have like some questions about what choices you made leading up to that. So when you're having a conversation with Delilah and she's saying she's getting ready to leave, what did you do?
Oh man, so this is like right at the end when she's saying like they're here for me, I'm gonna leave, good luck.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave. What did you say? You have those three options. Which one did you pick?
Okay, so mine, because like I had no idea what was gonna happen. I didn't know if I was gonna need somebody to come get me. I don't know if I was on a time limit. Like I had no idea. So I actually asked her to stay, but my thought on that is like, Harlan is like going into this alone, and he needs somebody to talk to. Yeah, Harlan Ellison, the famous member of Firewatch, and writer of "I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream." But my thought was like he needs a lifeline. He needs somebody to be able to talk to, not just to stay grounded in this super crazy moment, but like to let know if something goes fucking wrong and where he is. It was very much like if I were in this place with this relationship that has been built up like this to this point, what would I do? And that's kind of how I approached like the whole thing. Was kind of from like a role playing aspect. But yeah, at that point, I asked her to stay.
That is fair. I mean, yeah, when the first time that I played it, that's what I did as well. But you know, for reasons that were probably past the idea of like, you know, being a good person and wanting to meet your friend. And it was more like, you know, we've been flirting and she was saying nice things to me over the radio. Oh boy, I better meet her. She'll love me. Me, the person she's never seen and has no real attachment to outside of the only voice that she can possibly like continually speak to.
Well, she actually she is actually in contact with all of the outposts. She just talks to you the most.
She speaks to you the most is what that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Yeah. Like that part of it, I think is so interesting just leading up to the ending. And before we did this, I decided to watch a couple Let's Plays, specifically the endings of the Let's Plays, just to see the reactions of players and how they took the ending, how they took that sort of anticlimactic conclusion to a story that's wrapped in mystery and wrapped in all these different plot threads and how important they are and the character interactions and everything. And if they were disappointed when Delilah wasn't there, and like every single one, they were all so disappointed that Delilah wasn't there. And it seemed to extend outside of the game. Like it wasn't just, oh, you know, darn, like Henry probably really wanted to meet her, or I really wanted to meet her. They were like almost immediately jumping to the idea that the developers were just lazy or they didn't know how to end the story. So they just sent her away. Like they didn't want to program the character interaction of you talking to a person, which like,
that's stupid,
real, guys.
That's stupid. Fuck
yeah,
that.
like there were a lot of weird takes like that.
That's a really dumb take.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's the one that a lot of people were jumping to, that the developers were just lazy. And that's something we still see today. It's just like when something weird happens, developers are lazy. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier with the technical aspects of the art. Like so many people put so many hours of their lives into making things that on the surface are really simple. It's just like a drawing, or it's a picture, or it's, you know, a tree lit red instead of green. And all that stuff seems so straightforward, but in reality, it takes so much work. And to call someone lazy because something wasn't right to you or something didn't feel good, like
because something didn't line up with what you thought it should be.
Yeah, in a narrative game, like a game that's supposed to tell you a story, and you're like,
not
they're
just
lazy
that,
because
not
they
just
didn't
that.
tell the story right.
In any media, I'm taking this beyond games. In any media.
I mean, sure, but I'm specifically just focusing on.
Oh,
on
I
the
know.
games. But I mean,
I'm just
when
mad
you
about
go outside and
things.
you go to movies, people calling directors lazy or actors lazy or something like. There's so many parts of that. It's like, you know how much work goes into this stuff? Like, yeah, some people are lazy. Like, that is just a fact, you know, but you can tell when it's laziness, and it's not stuff like that. Like, it's not. And even when you can tell that it's laziness, that is still like your subjective opinion of that person's use of their time and the concentration that they have on certain aspects of the work. Like, it's impossible to truly tell that sort of thing.
Big agree on all fronts.
Something else that I thought was really funny, by the way, while watching the Let's Plays, and funny, but also kind of gross. And this was the thing I was talking about where I said I wanted to make a point about like how games or how the space has changed over the last 3 years. So every guy that played the ending of Firewatch that I watched, and I watched like mostly the popular ones, Jacksepticeye, Markiplier, PewDiePie, Thatcher Joe Games, not popular, but Thatcher Joe Games. And I watched Jesse Cox, and I watched one girl Let's Player because she just popped up and was one of the higher ranking ones. I figured I'd check it out. Hers was really interesting, but the guys, all except for Jesse Cox, immediately went into the outhouse. Like without delay. Like they went right into the outhouse. And one of them, like,
when you get to at Delilah's tower.
Yeah, at Delilah's tower. When you get to Delilah's tower, the first thing like every guy did was check the outhouse.
What?
Which is so weird.
That's
like
that's
one of them
weird.
commented on like, oh, it's a girl's bathroom, so they prettied it up because there's like a tin can with like a branch in it. Like what? I think PewDiePie said like, what does her poop smell like? Like.
What
like,
the
I'm
fuck?
not joking.
No, I know that you're not joking. Which, like, I'm in stunned silence here.
One of the guys went into Delilah's tower. I think it might have been Jacksepticeye, and said like, "Smell her shirt." No, that's kind of weird. But like the fact that he made that joke, right? Like that's really weird.
That's weird. That's gamers.
Yeah, and I think that says a lot about like how things have changed over the last 3 years. Because if these videos came out today. Yikes! Like they would not be.
It's still
so well passed off.
It's still yikes, but
it's still yikes, absolutely. But just the fact that the game has kind of fallen out of favor and nobody's watching those videos anymore, no one's talking about it. Yeah. I don't know if they're still doing that. I didn't check. I don't really
care too much to check. But
yeah, exactly. But the fact that we were doing this stuff 3 years ago is wild.
You mentioned that the girls. Ending of the Let's Play was interesting. What made that interesting? Like, what was different about that?
Yeah, so the female players' Let's Play, the channel's called Gloom. I had never heard of them before, but it was interesting because... Yeah, it's a great name. It was interesting because the ending of the Let's Play, they were upset that Delilah wasn't there. She was also upset by that, which, you know, I wasn't surprised. I think at that point, everyone is at least a little bit disappointed that they don't get to see her. Mostly because a lot of them are like, wait, and then she leaves, so it feels like you're almost betrayed.
Which is intentional, I am sure.
Total, it's a purposeful thing, but like her reaction to the ending in general seemed to be very like understanding of Delilah's situation right off the bat. Like she got why she would want to leave. I think she was the only one that immediately said that Delilah leaving makes sense because you were like this thing that reminded her so much of all the bad stuff in her life, like all this crazy crap that just went down over the last, you know, month or 2 or 3, 2.5 months. Yeah, 2.5 months. And all these scenarios, it's just a reminder of how awful things were for her. And to stick around and wait for someone like that, why would you do that? And she was like the only person that really mentioned that right off the bat, which is really interesting.
Yep. That shit makes sense.
Yeah. And something else. I know I'm taking up a lot of time here, but I did a lot
take
of
up the
interesting
time.
things
We've got that extra podcast hosting now. We can take up time with shit like this.
You're right. One video that I watched that I thought was just like, the title alone was so intriguing in that it was just the worst thing I had ever read, and then the entire video itself made me want to puke while I was watching it.
All right.
The title of the video is Delilah's Lies. It's a full plot and ending explanation, and this is going to lead into another point later on.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you a question at the end of this.
Just do it. Just go.
But basically, Henry, goes through this whole game, and there's all these things going on in his life, and the game kind of ends in such a way that you come to the conclusion that none of these things actually mattered. They weren't important, and they weren't like serious parts of Henry's life. They were just sort of distractions from the reality of things. It's a game about escapism and how it's a bad coping mechanism most of the time. It's good small doses, like at the start of the game. But at a point, you just become so wrapped up in escaping that you forget the things you're escaping from, the things that you are supposed to take a break from. And you just fall into them too deeply. And, that's a really poignant message, I think, for games in particular, something that so many people can lose hundreds of hours of their lives to. They will sit there and play these games and lose themselves in them, forgetting the things that they're supposed to actually care about and focus on and work on. I fall into that trap a lot, and a lot of people that do. And it's something that I think is pretty straightforward. By the end of the game, the game says it to you almost straight up, like word for word. And the fact that this guy who made a video called Delilah's Lies spends like 13 minutes explaining how actually the ending of the game is really so I liked it a lot. It's a great game, but it's only really good because Delilah's a fucking liar. There's all these secrets that she doesn't tell the player. She's actually playing you the whole time. She hates you, and that's why she doesn't meet you, because she hates you and thinks that you're she's working with Ned to screw you over. She wants to scare you. And it's like, dude, are you for real? Like,
that's so
seriously?
That's so funny, because that's exactly the trap that they make you think something along those lines within the first 2 or 3 days, where she leaves her radio on and talks to another tower.
Yeah,
that's
just a conversation she's having.
Yeah,
but it's not even really tricking so much as it's just it's you buy into Henry's paranoia.
Yes, exactly. It's I don't mean trick as in like the devs lied to you to make you think a thing. It's a trick as in like it's a narrative twist of the hat or whatever. Like they intentionally posit you to think that. They structure the stuff leading up to that point to make you think that, which good. But this guy clearly didn't get the memo. And
yeah,
maybe
nope, definitely not.
He
very
may
much
have
a guy.
Yeah, Manny's a nice guy.
Oh yeah, he seemed to really like the game. Like, I don't want to oversell this guy's disdain towards the plot and towards Delilah as a character, but like, it was just really weird to see, and not just from him, but from like a lot of people, that there's all these theory videos going around, and it's like, man, did y'all like not play the game?
Can y'all real? This like, isn't by David Lynch. It's just inspired by David Lynch. Yeah, please,
can y'all just like maybe spend like 5 seconds inferring anything from the ending? Whatever, it's fine.
Can y'all consume any other media and get some hints?
Yeah.
Jesus.
And
that's wild.
And the question I had for you that I'm curious about from your perspective, did you walk away from this with that escapist like message? Did that hit you at all? Because from your explanation at the start, it sounded more like you walked away from it with the regret and the fault aspect of it, with the relationships and how we infer them and stuff like that, and how we express our love and how we express our fear and our resentment and stuff like that. Did you walk away from it with something more than that, or was that your core element?
I did not pick up on any themes of escapism my entire playthrough.
Okay.
I get it now. Like you said it, and I'm like, oh yeah, he's literally running away. He's escaping from his problems. Like, I get it. That makes sense. And that clicks. But for me, it really was the whole way through a story about how we handle our relationships. It's about how we blame ourselves and how we're afraid of fault in either ourselves or the people that we know, and it's about how we blame ourselves for decisions that we make, good, bad, middle of the road. It's a game about love, and it's a game about marriage and responsibility and growth. And while he does like escape from things, I don't think that's the main theme, at least not for me. It's definitely more about, what Harriet the Firewatch man does as a husband and the mistakes that he makes.
Well, so like I don't
go for it. Go.
I don't want to undersell your interpretation of the game, because I do think it's a valid one, and there's a lot of that, but it's more at the beginning. After that point, the game is kind of just about like leaving and not being there and escaping, choosing to leave. But again, like the way that we're talking about these things, the two different directions that we have, and this is why I don't want to undersell your point, because I don't know how you played the game, says a lot about the sort of micro interactions that the game has and how it defines or lets you define your interactions with characters and your experience as a whole based on literally like the first your construction of Henry, like the first thing you do, that twine introduction. Yeah, like that's how you define Henry. That's how you define the rest of the game. Like the way that you interpreted it as being his faults as a husband, can say a lot about the choices that you made along the way, the choices that you made in conversations, like what you chose to talk about when Delilah asked you questions. Where from my perspective, it was a lot of, like, I heard a lot from Delilah about how she left home and how she chose to not, deal with her problems. How she said that like everyone is usually trying to run away from something in this job, and that's why they come out here. And all that sort of stuff. And that's what I walked away from it with, was a lot of that, a lot of those conversations, where for your perspective, it sounds like you left it with a lot more discussions about the things that you did wrong. You must have been a lot more honest about what happened with Julia.
Oh yeah.
I talked about her more openly.
I didn't lie about a single thing or deflect a single thing. My I'm out of H names. My Herbie was completely honest. He was like, yeah, this is why I'm here. This is what's going on. This is what happened. I shouldn't be here. I should be with her, but I'm here. And that to me, that made it more sad, because he's like, he could leave, but he's not. He could easily leave. What are they going to do? Not hire him again? Oh no.
Like, oh darn, this job I don't really want.
this job I'm here to run away from my feelings. Oh no. It's just, yeah, it's more of a story of, I feel, him coming to terms or already being to terms with his dumb mistakes and his failures and learning from them pretty quick. And then at the end of the game, just sacking up and saying, yeah, all right, I'm going to go not be a shit now.
So from that perspective, you see Ned as a sort of like as a version of Henry that didn't learn anything?
Man, yeah, he's a foil to Henry. Like he's an exact mirror of him. Ned is created to mirror back all of the things that Ned hates about, or that Henry hates about himself.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's how I saw him as well from the escapist angle. Like he just refused to ever really deal with anything. He just kept looking for new ways to avoid the problem, to avoid the situation, new ways to get away from it. Moving camps, like the fire starts, and instead of like trying to actually get help and get out of there at the risk of having to talk about his dead son, he like just falls deeper into the woods, finds a new spot. Yeah. Very interesting themes going on in the game. The fact that we can pull so much different stuff from it is really interesting.
No, I think it also speaks to what you were saying earlier about like how people who are at different points in their lives or have had different things happen, like we'll get different stuff out of it.
Yeah.
I'm married, so I'm gonna get more shit about that angle,
Mm-hmm.
It's
definitely, yeah.
Yeah. That was definitely the stuff that hit more personally in this game to me. Like, the mystery was awesome, and I love the first few. I love every night that was like, what the fuck is that? What do you mean there's somebody in my tower? What the fuck are you talking about? Somebody killed those two girls? Like, it was super thrilling.
Yeah.
But that's not the shit that hit home for me. That's not the shit that actually got me in the gut, you know? It was every time he would talk about Julia and just his development at that angle that really seemed like the important parts to me.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, that's, as much as the game spends a lot of time creating these sorts of almost misdirections of paranoia and trying to give you fuel for the fire of Henry's crazed hopes of escapism or hopes of finding something to distract him from what he did wrong with Julia. The game is still very much about the realities of it all. Like, we all jump to the extreme in this sort of situation when you're out in the woods alone, you have no one to interact with, and you other than a voice on a radio, and you don't even know who that is. We all tend to, I think, eventually start to create greater scenarios. We all try to find greater meaning in the simple things or in straightforward things. And that's something that the game touches on a lot. And that's the part of it that I think they're trying to sell more than anything else. They just create these crazy scenarios to help the player connect with Henry's fears and paranoia and the way that he's feeling. And so you feel a connection with him that I think a lot of games never really reach the same level of. You have a connection with Henry regardless of how you play him, that I can only think of like a small handful of games even coming close to achieving that same level of connection.
For sure.
Yeah.
Firewatch is a feelsy ass game, man. It's good. Shit.
Oh yeah.
Shit, this
Makes
game
you
is
feel
good.
stuff. No crying, unfortunately.
For me, I bet you cried.
I didn't cry.
You sure?
I've never cried once in my life.
That's a lie.
That's a lie.
Oh,
That's
man.
Definitely a lie.
I do really like this game, and I'm very, very glad that we were finally able to play it, because this is another one of you and I have talked a bit before about it, but like, there are a lot of games that when they came out just weren't my bag, weren't my cup of tea, and this is definitely one of them, which is surprising because I fucking love Dear Esther for some reason, but I had like no interest in this.
You haven't played Gone Home yet either, right?
I haven't, nope. And this, I'm the indie boy. Never played a single fucking indie game in my life. My channel's about Call of Duty and Destiny 2.
No, it's about Dark Souls. Don't lie.
Only one. I have one Dark Souls video. And then a bunch of videos calling other games the Dark Souls of genre.
Yeah.
This is the Dark Souls of podcasts.
Oh, okay.
I really am glad that we got to play this, though. Really, really
Yeah.
glad. It was a reflective experience.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any other questions? I think I'm good to move on to audience questions at this point, honestly.
No, I think I'm definitely very excited to answer the first question.
Okay.
That's for sure.
So our first question comes from friend of the show, the Rasputin, and it is, who does it belong to?
So this is a great joke.
Okay.
From the Rasputin, king of comedy, number one funny man.
Okay.
Lord of the joke.
Okay.
There's this video by a YouTuber named Satchbags Goods. It might just be Satchel Drakes now. I don't know what he calls himself on YouTube, but you can look that up. You'll get what you want. It's a video called
You'll get what you
Firewatch
need,
is Mine. You get what you need. You get your drugs. No drugs. We don't know.
You get your Firewatch videos.
Get your Firewatch. That's almost a drug. He made this video called Firewatch is Mine. It's a non-spoilery, for the most part, discussion on what Firewatch means, what its world and what its themes have to say about Satch's life, I guess, mostly. The joke here is that the question is, who does it belong to? And the answer is Satchel Drakes and nobody else. So don't you dare say Firewatch is yours, because it's not. It's his.
What a good joke.
What's your answer, man? Who do you think Firewatch belongs to?
The people.
Wrong answer. Satchel Drakes.
Fuck.
Next question.
I fucked it up. All right. Is the ending supposed to be underwhelming? And I
Yeah.
100%. And I kind of want to tie this into a question from the next asker, Red Angel, Lord of the Critics, at Red Angel X3.
It's a powerful name.
It's a very, very strong name. Their second question actually ties into this one, which is, do you think the ending's tone fits the rest of the game? And yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
100%. This is a classic writing thing where it's set up and followed up on to the exact extent that it needs to be to create, various reactions in the media consumer.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reflection of the ending that you could see in the start. How many scenarios does the beginning of the game go through that get brought up later on? Like, almost none of them, other than, like, owning a dog. But for the most part, when something happens, it happens, and then that's it. There isn't, like, some crazy thing going on. The guy who attacks you in the street, there's no conspiracy behind that. There's no secret story.
It's just a shitty event that happened to some people.
It's just a shitty guy just tries to fuck with you, and then you beat his face in, or you don't, and you just scare him away.
Which did you do?
I beat his face in because I'm not a coward. Good. I totally would not do that in real world, but in the video game, I'm a total badass.
Yeah,
yeah. You get that element of nothing feeling like it really seriously matters at the start. Like, you're making choices that obviously for you matter, but in the grand scheme of things, those scenarios never really affect anything in your life. They're not things that recur. And that, I think, you can feel in Firewatch's full game, and then the ending kind of telling you, like, reaffirming that, yeah, nothing really mattered, man. Like, it's life. Stuff happens, there are such things as coincidences. And that's sort of what the ending, I think, sells like more than anything else. It's just that there are coincidences in life. Not everything is some grand conspiracy, just because it feels like it could be doesn't mean it is.
And I think also, like, it grounds it a bit more, because it's like you're not going to find the answers to everything in your life. Like, you can go on this crazy adventure, but it doesn't mean you're going to know what the secret MacGuffin was the whole time. It doesn't even mean there was one. And I think that it really grounds this, because, like, it ends, you get out, and that's it. Movies end that way all the time. So why would it be underwhelming or bad for a game to end like that, especially when it leads up to it pretty much perfectly?
Because we didn't get to see the girl, man.
Damn it!
How disappointing.
Yeah, well, we got
my radio waifu.
We got to see the hot fireman, which was nice.
No Forrest Burns, be gone.
No, not that. No, not creepy ass Forrest Burns.
Oh, you mean Hot Henry in his white man shorts?
No, again, I mean literally the fireman.
Oh, you mean the fireman
in the helicopter when you escape? Who is, fun fact, Henry? That's just Henry in there because they had no other people like face modeled out. I love that. It's so good.
Yeah.
Red Angel's other question is, during your Firewatch experience, were you ever able to immerse yourself within the character in the world, developing a parasocial bond with it? And boy, we've been kind of talking about this the whole time. I
think we've said yes. Yeah, that's exactly what we went through.
Yes.
Was just
and I mean, it's
connecting with the character in such a big way.
I kind of set out in games like this to do that. I want to put myself in the shoes of this character that I'm going to be with for 4+ hours. Like, it's important to me to do that to get what I feel is a full experience out of the game. If I just sat back and said, I don't know, whatever, it wouldn't have been the same.
Definitely same. Like, to be so disconnected from a character in anything, especially in like a game that is all about the story, I feel like that just like sells the game short and also ruins your experience. Why are you spending $20 on something to just like...
It sets it up for failure, really.
Yeah, like it's like watching a scary movie in daylight. Although for some people that...
I will watch a scary movie at any time of day and it'll scare me because it's good.
Some people are cowards. Some people...
fuck you!
...are less cowardly. I'm not one of those people, unfortunately.
You watch it in the middle of the day with the lights on, the blinds open, and like a stuffed.
And I cry a little bit.
You got a stuffed animal. You got a whoopee. Got a blankie.
I got my teddy, bro. Don't be talking smack on my stuffed Wario, okay? I give him a little smooch.
Do you have a stuffed Wario? That's awesome.
I do have a stuffed
Wario.
That's
fucking great.
Shout out to the girlfriend.
That's awesome. Shout outs. And then we got one more. One more question from Puking Goombas, which is, again, what was your take on the endings? We had 3 different people ask us about the ending.
Man, it's the most contentious part of the game.
It really is. I just wanted to point out that Cody actually says that he thinks it's about how we let our expectations and hype get the better of us. And I think that's definitely a fair take on this, especially given like what you've told me about audience reaction to this game. Like it's very much like,
yeah, everyone was like, oh, we're gonna meet Delilah and she's gonna like us so much, dude, and we're gonna go to Calder, we're gonna go, you know, whatever,
we're gonna go to Boulder, Colorado.
We're gonna hang out.
I'm gonna take Delilah to meet my wife.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. We're gonna totally do it, and she's not gonna remember because Julia has dementia. It's gonna be great. I love emotions.
Sad now. Let's oof.
Sorry. Yeah, like, you know,
rough.
that is absolutely what it is. It's kind of just everyone being like, oh man, yeah, no, there must be like some secret conspiracy. Look at all these books we found with like these totally fake looking things that definitely would not be real. Like, why would they have all this information written in books like this with no specific things written down next to them? Like, what? This is all really vague information. Why would someone record this?
Because sometimes the world's like that.
Yeah. So it's very much expectations and hype. And yeah, I think we've had our takes on the ending, but basically it's very good. And it, you know, the way that you reflect on it depends on how you played the game and your circumstances while doing so.
So yeah, did you? Oh, I just wanted to point out that the part in the developer commentary that scared the shit out of me was when you turn right from Pork Pond and there's all the T-posed bodies.
Yeah, no, I remember that. I was like, that's a power move, guys. And it's funny because that developer commentary definitely came out before everyone was doing the haha funny T-pose are scary meme.
Yes, yes.
Man, they were way ahead of the fucking curve.
There's that, and like, there's the part where you actually have the model of Henry, and he's like standing in front of the waterfall when you're going up to the girl's second camp.
Mm-hmm.
And like I did the dev commentary with Jam, and we were just walking and she was looking at something else, and she like panned the camera left, like in a tree, like a bunch of tree branches passed in front of the waterfall and where the Henry model was. So we just saw like a glimpse of a silhouette, and I was like, what the fuck is over there? That wasn't there before. What's going on? And I got scared.
The best part of those T-pose
awesome.
models is the Henry that has really tight short shorts on.
It's so
that's kind of it. That's the best thing in the video game. That's like totally worth playing through dev commentary.
He's got the heart-shaped chest hair.
Yep.
I really love that.
Shout out to Jane Ang, honestly. Good.
I also like how they hid a couple off in like the distant geometry for scale. That was really cool. The one by the tree, terrifying.
Yeah, just to show you how big the tree is.
You come up and you just see it. Oh, it's also just straight out of like some light pulp horror. Very good. I'm satisfied. Firewatch good.
It's good. You're more satisfied than everyone else that seemed to play this on launch, so that's good.
Yeah, well, gamers.
Yeah. Let's check the outhouse.
Fuck off.
Anyway, bro, it's on PewDiePie.
I hate it. Let's go to the outro. Thanks for joining us for this month's episode of Byte Club. July's game, voted for by our patrons, is Hyper Light Drifter. Hyper Light Drifter is a 2D action game that is as difficult as it is goddamn gorgeous. You take on the role of a drifter in a strange world, adventuring around and killing bosses, and it's pretty good. Very difficult game.
Oh yeah, very hard.
It's got some local co-op, which is, it exists, and you can pick the game up on all the major platforms, plus Linux in the Ouya for about $20.
I know I'm checking this out on Ouya for sure.
Yeah, we have the Ouya. That's a real console. If you'd like to vote for August's game, then head on over to patreon.com/IndieBytesYT to learn how you can. The choices for that month are No Man's Sky, My Friend Pedro, and Near Death. As always, we will be taking your questions about next month's game and chatting about them here on the podcast, so send them in as you come up with them or when we ask for them on Twitter. We have 3 ways for you to send in questions. You can email to nevin@indie-bytes.com. You can use a contact form on the Indie Bytes website, or you can just yell at me on Twitter, like I said. You can find Jesse on Twitter at Guarecia. You can find... I'm never going to get it right.
Nope.
Never. You can find a whole bunch of indie game-related content on Twitter at IndieBytesYT, on YouTube at IndieBytes, and at indie-bytes.com. This episode's music is from the Firewatch soundtrack by Chris Remo, and it can be found on Bandcamp and I'm sure a couple other places.
Oh, it's magnifico.
Thank you.
If you can get the vinyl, please.
Good. I'm eyeballing that vinyl. Man, I want it so bad. Thanks again for listening. We are looking forward to getting your questions and talking about Hyperlight Drifter next month, and we will see you later.
I'm headed off to Shoshone, where the birds and the bees won't know me. Man and war won't exist no more, and there ain't no gals to keep no score. I'm taking off for the woods, to a place where there ain't no shirts. Don't need no books or ponds or the ponderosas. Don't need no lady or Mary.